Who's the dumbass now?
Okay, we're recording.
Nah,
He's gonna be a stay-at-home husband.
joke's on you.
That's his part. He's whacking up the gun.
Of death. Welcome everybody to the Lunchtime Banter podcast. I am your host Jota, alongside with my co-host Kevin Gurjot and Preeti. And today we have a very special guest, Neetu from 420 Consulting. So she's gonna drop some knowledge bombs today, all about how to get a license grow up operation.
We never use the term grow.
Operation.
I wanted to make sure I was saying it right.
And you didn't.
You said it completely wrong.
Did I? Oh, my bad.
All right. What is
How do
it
you
actually?
say it? How do you say it?
I guess the best way to put it is that we provide guidance for the application to microcultivation.
All right. That sounds way better.
Yeah.
Much more interesting than how I said it.
We're really smart people.
Operation.
So tell us about this microcultivation.
Okay.
What
so,
is considered a microcultivation?
microcultivation is a new class of license in cannabis production. Initially, it was standard cultivation, which is on a much larger scale. So microcultivation has been introduced since October 17th of 2018 to allow smaller scale cannabis farmers or cannabis producers really, to enter the legal industry.
And how many plants was considered micro?
It's not the plant count, but it's actually the production space, and I think the allotment is 200 square meters.
So you can grow as much as you
Whatever
want
you can
in
cram
that
in
space?
there.
There's no production limit. There's a processing limit for a processing license, but not for a production
Oh, so
license.
so in a scenario you could go levels,
Vertical.
maybe
You
levels.
can go vertical.
You can go vertical, but again, it counts as your space.
Yeah, but-
so if you're using shelving, the
got
shelf
you,
space
got you.
counts as your part
Oh,
of
so
your
it's
space.
floor space basically. Now if you put another level, it's
Considered.
Yeah, it's
it's
additional
more-
space.
okay,
Yeah.
It's
got
additional
you,
space.
got you.
So 200 square meters. What kind of
You don't quote me on that number, but it's somewhere around there.
what kind of yield can one get in such a operation?
It depends how good of a grower you are.
Yeah,
Depends on how quickly.
that all depends.
You know, a buddy of mine, he grows peppers, and he's been to like Aurora's facility and what's the other, Cannabis,
Yeah.
right? And he's like, yeah, these guys are in greenhouses and stuff. He goes, but they know jack shit about growing in greenhouses. He's like, they are not optimized at all. He goes, if I took my knowledge and came into this operation, he goes,
Oh, they're not using the
they're not-
greenhouses to the
they're
maximum
not
basically.
not even like remotely close to what they could be doing. But
That's
he's,
weird because I would think people that are already in the greenhouse industry would jump on that.
I asked him, I'm like, yo, well, how come you don't want to get into cannabis?
Yeah.
And his thing was that he's really passionate about growing food and the whole legacy of producing food for the world.
You could produce weed for the world.
They're
Yeah,
literally called edibles.
No, for him, he's really passionate about growing food, and that's why he's sticking in that
You should
area.
just be like a consultant then.
That's what I told him.
Oh,
I'm like, that'd be
yeah.
Yeah,
good.
join the club.
Yeah.
Good gig. We'll get him in touch with Neetu.
Yeah, join the team.
That'd be.
I'll leave some of my cards here.
Please do. Please do. So, what's the process like to getting certified?
Honestly, it's pretty lengthy. Health Canada has put together a pretty difficult, I guess it's a difficult avenue to approach. You need to pass security. You need to be able to show Health Canada that you are able to grow compliantly and cleanly, and you need to have a master grower in place. You need to have security in place. You need to have good production practices in place. So it takes I'd say about a year from start to finish, and that's only an estimate because actually nobody has, other than one person that I know of who's switched from a standard to a micro. I don't know anyone who's actually become licensed.
Wow,
Yeah, it's really
it's
backed
really
up.
difficult.
So
Yeah.
everybody's growing unlicensed?
You could say that. People are growing under the ACMPR program, which is the Access to Cannabis for Medical Purposes regulation,
Oh, okay.
and that's kind of gray. But that's what
Okay.
they're doing at the moment.
Interesting.
Do you deal with only like cannabis and stuff, or do you deal with anything else?
Anything else?
Do you think she's a coke dealer?
So tell me about cocaine. How do I get licensed for cocaine? No.
You have opium licenses, dude?
I know nothing about that.
What was your question? I don't get it.
Anything else?
What's
Other things.
anything else? What's
You
other
know?
things?
Some people need to get licensed for other things.
Like
Growing other
what?
things.
The driver's
I thought-
license?
No, I thought it could be like expanding into like getting licensed to grow other stuff.
Like?
Not necessarily drugs.
An
Okay,
example?
give an
like
example.
vegetables?
I don't know,
Yeah.
But you don't need a license for that.
I know you don't.
Just keep your mouth shut.
Does it make you
Fucking
fucked
guys,
up?
man. You're
And
fucking
we'll,
You fucked up.
we'll
Back-
move on once you say you fucked up.
Step back. So, how costly is it to go through this process?
Very. The access used to be different. You used to be able to present your package to Health Canada, and you could become licensed to grow before your facility was fully built out. Now you have to provide an evidence package that shows that your facility is completely built out. So you can't really have an income and then continue to produce your facility, whereas you could before. So it's in the range of 1 to 1.5 million.
So, like, you basically have to have, if you're going to take the greenhouse route,
Yeah.
you have to have the greenhouse built, ready to plant, and then just sit and wait.
So Health Canada has produced new documentation, and basically it says that you have to show that your facility is compliant. There's been meetings Health Canada has hosted all over the country, and they've been very unclear as to what that means, and I'm pretty sure it's because they don't know what it means.
So they've written a certain language that even they aren't
100%.
don't know how to interpret.
Well, it's
You
the
can
beginning.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah,
beginning,
it is.
right?
It is
So
the
nobody
beginning,
knows
to be
what's going
fair,
on.
but they're hiring absolute clowns. It's really difficult to get an answer out of Health Canada for
And
the simplest questions.
You mentioned that a part of that the compliance package is hiring a master grower. What's a master grower?
A master grower is a person who knows how to grow cannabis, and then again, the regulation shows that that person needs to provide that they have a background in growing cannabis. Like, obviously,
So basically,
Not
someone that's
illegally.
been
Somebody
doing
who's
it
done
illegally
grow-off.
for
like,
years.
either
It's like, look at all this
incriminate
weed I made.
So, like, for this gang, I produced like 2 tons, and we shipped that down to Mexico, and we got their cocaine back. So that's like really good experience.
That's business too.
Yeah.
Look, I made profit. I tripled my profits.
Yeah,
Dude, I grew so much. That's what
yeah. Bro, you don't even know. Like, how
the
do you,
dankest weed, bro.
like, how do they even like? Is there a certification for a master grower?
Okay, so actually, I spoke with Health Canada on this topic a number of months ago because I was unclear as well. One of the things is what they said was a background in growing, not just growing cannabis, but a background in
okay.
growing.
Yo,
So
we're
farmers.
master
Yeah,
growers.
yeah, you guys are all master growers for sure.
Sick.
But there's as well, like, I know that there are now people are taking advantage of this industry as much as they can. So when I first got into the industry, I took a course on a QAP course, a quality assurance course, and it was $5,000. And in my company, 5 people took it. So that company, even though the course was garbage and all I got was a certificate that I printed off the internet, that company made $25,000 just from us. So those sorts of things are popping up, and I've come across a program online where you can take it so that you can certify yourself.
A lot of racketeering.
Yeah, it's there's a lot
Quite
of
the racket.
yeah.
What happened to the people who aren't licensed and they're growing?
If they're growing under the ACMPR program, or
Like if
Just
they're
in
not
general.
licensed under like.
So
you know,
what? Just to
exactly
clarify,
is
what is ACMPR?
so a lot of people, you're allowed to have 4 plants. Anyone can have
Yeah.
4 plants.
Per house, right?
Correct.
But
Beyond that,
once you're, I think 3 and under is not a grow up, but like 4 is considered a grow up, but you're allowed to do it. Isn't it something like that?
for personal production, you can have 4 plants.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, you need an authorization to grow, which is into the ACMPR program. So once you get, you've got an authorization from a doctor, they'll give you a gram amount that you can grow. So for example, you're given 79 grams. I think we divide it by 4.5, but don't quote me on that either because I don't actually deal with the calculations. But that tells you how many plants you can grow. And as long as you remain underneath your plant count, they can't really do anything about it. But you get a high gram amount from the doctor when you say to them, like, oh, I juiced. That's why I need to grow so many plants, because I juice. And like, I honestly don't know anyone who juices. But apparently they do. So they get a really high plant count, and they can then have like 150 or 200 plants because they're juicing and they need that many plants.
What do you mean juicing?
Like juicing.
They're
Juicing the
juicing.
plant.
They're growing the plant so they can juice them and then drink the juice.
Oh, okay.
That's fantastic. Our listeners are gonna love that.
It's a really interesting concept.
is a
because
great
that allows
loophole.
them
Yeah.
that allows them to have that number of plants in their house
Yeah.
legally, and say that they're growing that many to juice or to create like a topical. That's how they get around it. That's how they get around growing without a micro cultivation or a standard license. They just stay in the ACMPR program.
And where does CBD fall under all this? Like, do you need a license to sell CBD?
A license to sell it?
Yeah,
Yes.
you do.
Oh,
Hmm.
what? Like if you already have it extracted and everything, and you still need a license? To
Well,
Like, there's a lot of people, like, CBD is the big thing, right? So a lot of people are selling CBD products, CBD infused this, the non-psychoactive. So,
I see what you mean.
yeah.
Actually, I don't know. I know, like in a retail storefront, those a legal retail store needs a license.
oh, okay, good, okay. Yeah, but that's like anything.
Yeah,
Any
yeah.
weird drug you're selling, you need a license
Yeah.
to sell that. Okay.
Now, is the, well, I guess we're not FDA, but I guess it's Health Canada for us. What requirements do they kind of have when it comes to selling, or I guess you're not on the selling side, you're more on the compliance on the back end side.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Scrap my question.
It sounds like it's kind of like you know how we went through the Canada Gap program, where we get it like audited, go
Yeah.
through all
Varies,
of our
yeah.
books and like make
Sounds
sure
very
all facility.
similar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it sounds just
That's
like
why
that. I
I'm-
wonder if it even falls in that.
It must, because
They
it's
must
it's,
get
it's
it
The
farming.
Canada Good Agricultural Practices Program. You guys, is that like? Do they have marijuana on that one?
Well, we have good production practices.
I think
Good
it's
production. Yeah,
I think
This is
it
good
falls
agri-
under GAP
that's good agricultural production.
because they're looking at the IQF,
practice.
exactly what you mentioned,
Yeah,
right? The IQF aspect of it, the handling,
Yeah.
how you're
Yeah.
processing, all that. It sounds
Yeah.
very similar to GAP.
yeah.
They probably took people from over there. They're like, yo,
Yeah,
go
pretty
over
Oh,
much.
for sure. They're not going to
Yeah.
reinvent the wheel.
Even
Yeah.
that program is ridiculous. Like it's only like people from like Manitoba and Ontario are licensed to like do those audits. So
What?
they get them to fly out. And they
What?
come. Yeah,
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's
It's
some sort of
stupid.
ist, like province
Yeah.
ist.
I don't know what it is, but it's so stupid. And like they charge you up the ass, and it seems like they're like wasting money.
Oh yeah, because you have to do it every year.
Yeah.
Even though like it's like okay, I'm doing the same stuff I did last year.
Yeah,
You
Kevin,
signed off on it last.
Tell us how much you love GAP.
oh, it is a fucking
I
worst.
fucking hate it so much because it's such a waste of money, especially because I don't have a big farm or anything, but I still have to pay the same price as somebody with 100 acres. You know what I mean? Like I still have to take a big chunk just to fucking pay them to make sure I'm still running my farm.
The government
The
has
same
a
way.
way of putting their sticky little paws
Yeah.
on absolutely everything.
Yeah, but it's stupid because like it doesn't even cover everything. Like the gap thing, it's like so they'll come and check out the field and stuff like that. But if you're leasing one, they're not going to come and check out that because that's not on your property. But if you like basically don't claim it and stuff, they don't have any knowledge of the actual production. They just come and look at your site.
So is a leasing
So
like
if you only
bypass
lease,
it?
then you would
Never
bypass the
happen?
GAP process?
And
Kind of.
Would the owner
No,
have to
no.
do
Okay,
it?
so like usually you go through your processing plant, and so they're gonna
Whoever just,
the processing plant, they kind of want your certification
give you
too,
the
so they
list.
can sell it to everybody.
Oh,
Like, hey,
okay,
they're all
okay.
certified. So then they'll be like, hey, this farm needs to go and get audited and stuff like that, getting all their shit looked through. And when they do it, they'll be like, hey, what are your sites? So you just write down what your sites are. And a lot of people who lease other farms, they're like, fuck that, I'm not going to show them all my sites. So it's like, I'm just going to do this.
The ones
And
that
so
I-
you only
The
have
one
to
that you have
you
on
only have to
title.
check that water. They only do that water testing. They only do that like, oh, make sure the whole site's clean, even though your other farm can look like complete shit with all this
Yeah.
crap all over it. But like, it's not properly done. And even like, so like somebody who has like a 10-acre farm, but they're leasing like 20, 30, 40, like 50 acres more. Even if you're like producing like ridiculous amounts for your small farm that you're claiming, they don't look at those numbers. So it's like if you have fucking 10 acres, but you're fucking saying that you make fucking 200,000 pounds, they don't look at that. They'll be like, oh, okay, that's fine. We're just gonna look at this farm and you're good to go.
Sounds like there's a gap in the GAP process. So what got you interested in cannabis compliance?
My cousin's husband was already in it, and I saw the potential for growth, especially as that legal date was approaching, October 17th. And I just, I mean, maybe it was some form of nepotism, but I was like, I want in, and that was it. I didn't sit in an interview or provide a resume. I was just, that was it. I was in. I think I saw the potential for that much growth. You want to get into something right at the beginning, and yeah.
And what kind of growth are you seeing? But like in terms of like applications for legal.
There's so many companies popping up. Like 420 Consulting is not the only one, although we're the best one. There are
100%.
several, and like comparatively, the other companies that I know of, they charge a hell of a lot more than we do. So my company charges $25,000 per applicant. The next company that I know of was charging between 100 and 120 grand.
That's a big difference.
Yep. They've dropped their price to 80 grand. I'm sure anyone can Google this and figure out who I'm talking about. But yeah, like to me, that's ridiculous because the idea was to provide a route of entry to smaller growers or people with smaller spaces. And that is a massive obstruction.
That's a huge obstruction.
Yeah.
People don't have that kind of money,
No.
and especially because that's just the consulting fee. On top of that, you're paying for all of your security, all of your building, everything.
Before you've made a dollar.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Nothing.
That's why it's so backward, and it's infuriating to some people because you should be able to begin growing before you have to present that evidence package, which you always had to do. But now, because you have to present that evidence package before you're licensed, like people are fucking livid.
Yeah.
So what kind of what do I get for that $25,000? What does your services include?
So our company provides everything from the business plan, the security plan, the operational security plan, and the physical security plan. The GPP, I think I just mentioned that actually. And then as well, you need to have a site plan, a site survey, an aerial plan. All of those things need to go into your package to present to Health Canada, and our company takes care of everything. And then there are a couple of additional things, like we can throw in a logo for your company if you haven't already created one, and like that's just something that we
some
provide.
branding and marketing type of thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't say marketing, but we do have in-house for creating a logo. Like that saves a client $400 or $500, which obviously they appreciate, and our guy loves designing logos, so it's an easy way to make them happy. Yeah, that's...
So he loves designing stuff with the weed symbol thing?
or sometimes he alludes to the weed symbol and doesn't quite use it.
Okay.
How many people work in your company?
9?
Nice.
Yeah. We are definitely one of the smaller companies by a landslide, but again, we're the best one.
Where you guys based out of again?
Victoria, BC.
Oh, okay.
But you work with clients across Canada?
That's correct.
We're right now, where are you seeing the most applications coming out of BC?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
There's a lot of farms and like I heard a lot of just farmers in general, like you know how they have big ass barns on their properties and stuff like that. They start renting those out to people who want to grow weed. And
90%, I would say.
I've known of some people.
99.9% of those are rented out to illegal grow-ups.
Yeah.
I've had so many people who come to me and be like, well, I've got a permit to grow X amount of plants or whatever. Because when I was renting out my shop, I had a lady come and she's like, oh, I really like it. Me and my husband, we have our own business. We want the shop. I was like, okay, cool. Next day she calls me. She's like, so I have lupus and I've got a thing for my personal use to grow 70 plants. And I'm like, 70 plants.
70?
For personal. I'm like, you must have some aggressive form of lupus.
So it's probably the case that when she had her doctor's appointment, she said something like, I'm creating a topical or I'm juicing.
Wow.
And for that reason, you need far more plants to juice than you do if you were ever to smoke.
Yeah, I just said, I don't want any of that activity on my property, so I bounced her. She was like, I'll
you
pay
missed out.
She's like,
You missed out so much. We could have got free weed. Man.
No,
Not only
it
that,
wasn't that. The for me, it was the principle because I live on the property. I didn't want that kind of heat, and it wasn't. I don't. If she had the permit, whatever, I would have. I didn't care about any of that. It was people. There's so many stories of people getting their grow-ups being ripped off. So
Still?
man,
I don't hear it
still.
anymore.
I hear it all the time.
What do you mean grow-ups being ripped off?
So,
Like,
stolen. Stolen. People will come
Oh.
and steal their plants,
Yeah.
and so I'm like, I just didn't want that kind of heat on my property. If I didn't live here, 100%, triple the rent. Why not? All day, all day. Right? Once I move from here, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. But that was the reason. I just didn't want to attract that kind of heat where my kids are and all that stuff. So
For
I
sure.
said, forget it.
Yeah.
It probably makes sense for farmers to lease out to those who are in the ACMPR program, but up until recently, ALR land, agricultural, what is it?
Land reserve.
Yeah, the agricultural land reserve was also putting strict barriers in place. So clients were calling in and they were so pumped because now marijuana was legal and they had this ALR land and massive amounts of land, but the ALC was like, not happening. So up until very recently, the rules around developing on ALR land made it very difficult for cannabis production, but that has changed now.
So what can you do now?
You
on
can
ALR?
have a facility on ALR land.
Oh, sons of bitches reduce the size of the houses, but I can build a grow-up facility?
Yeah.
What a bunch of
Well,
assholes.
who needs a house bigger than 5,000
Who
square feet
doesn't?
anyway? That's ridiculous.
doesn't?
So when like a lot of
It's not that-
especially upbringing, they live together
Yes,
and
it's
stuff. A lot of families living
Okay.
together.
It should be like, yeah, if a certain amount of people live there.
Okay, how
agree.
many people need to live there? Like more than 20?
I don't agree. It's not that you need it. It's that you worked so hard your entire life.
Or ripped other people off.
Nevertheless,
Your house does not have to be a reflection of how hard you've worked.
No,
It's just
but like
excessive.
some people, you work really hard and now you're gonna build your final master, your final house, your dream house.
Yeah, you need a yoga room, then you need
You need
another
everything.
weight room.
a gift wrapping room.
All right, you've
a
convinced
snow
me.
room. It's just cold in there.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is, if you look at the percentage of land being taken away for that house compared to how much land is planted, it is a small fraction. Why can I buy a shitty 6,000 square foot lot in a city and be able to build 80% of that lot value, and on a farm where I've got 50, 100 times
Okay,
that size, I'm restricted on how size the
Well,
house I can
I agree with you.
because-
Fucking bullshit.
Because in the city, it was zoned for development, and the ALR was zoned to reserve that land. We've just like created a concrete jungle. Don't you think that's really sad?
I don't agree.
But you're a farmer, are you not?
I am.
So,
No, he's not.
but you
He's a-
also
he's a
want
fake
to
farmer.
pour
He's a fake
concrete
farmer.
on top of your
Neetu, he's a fake
most
farmer.
productive soil.
He's a fake farmer.
Don't you think that's a
On a
paradox?
portion of it where I'm gonna live and enjoy.
A portion.
That's what I meant,
In
a
excess to
portion.
5,000 square feet is just stupid.
Well, the
Well,
reason
it depends. Like some people, okay, they want to build a farm, they want
Generational
like a little
families.
pool house and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and they want to like build all the way around it. And it's like they've worked so hard. It's like I want what I want.
Well,
and
Right.
They've obviously farmed enough and like made all these trees and obviously like planted all and like taking care of all these plants and stuff like that. And it's like now it's time to kind of reap all the rewards after that. And it's like yes, if it does take away from your land, they're making that decision by themselves. They should be allowed to.
I suppose so, but that land does not. You should want to reserve agricultural land, in my opinion, and as well, a pool is not a fucking necessity. You just go to the public pool. You
No.
don't need
it's
your
hot
own.
over here, man.
People pee in that pool. Okay, I want to pee in my own pool.
Okay, all right.
And hold on.
Swim in my own piss.
Hold on. And
in my own
do you know how far farms are from public pools?
Yeah.
Who wants to drive? Nobody.
I want
These are
all
great
the
points.
amenities on my farm.
Yes.
All right, fine. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
No, but the whole reason they did it was their reasoning is so that people could afford farms, right?
Yeah, part of it.
Look at your face now. Like,
Whatever.
look, if this shit went like the real estate industry went down, right, and everything got cheaper, I'm sure they'll allow.
Somebody
fucking
wants a
big-ass
cheap
houses.
farm, go to Saskatchewan. A lot of cheap
Yeah,
farms.
you can
over
build
there.
as big as a house as you want.
My thing is, as long as you have farm status, if you have farm status,
Yeah.
meaning you're able to show that you're doing some level of agricultural work,
Yeah.
you should be allowed to build whatever you
That's
want.
Yeah, but
also
it just goes-
the
gets
problem
out
with that
control.
is like obviously I'm with fucking like building whatever the hell you want on your farm, but even the farm status thing is like that's
Too
really-
easy.
Dude,
It's too
so
easy.
easy.
Dude,
Too
you can,
easy.
You can grow
You
wheat.
you could probably get it right here. Like a-
You can get like a couple of goats, you're good to go. That's it.
I'm not ALR, so I can't.
Oh, you're not?
No,
You fool.
You fool. I thought you were.
no.
Oh, weird.
Ha ha ha! Property tax. Ha ha. ha.
Property tax is so high. Fucking sucks. The guy behind me is on 4.5 acres. I don't even want to know what his property tax
Dude,
bill
I
is.
thought he was on ALR. That's
No,
why he had
he's
the
not-
goats.
He's not ALR
That's
either.
why I thought he had the goats.
Dude, all you gotta do is plant fucking like Christmas trees in the
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
I know, but I'm not ALR, so
okay,
it doesn't
okay,
apply.
okay. But you could have. If you were.
You should apply to be rezoned
Yeah.
and demand it.
Oh, demand it.
I wonder if I can just apply to
Strike.
have a marijuana license here.
I think I just outlined how stringent and difficult it is.
But I have you
Have
now.
you not been-
420
Yeah,
consultant.
That's true.
You're gonna push it through.
Absolutely. I have those kind of connections with
Exactly.
Canada.
Oh shit.
If anyone can make it happen, 420 consultant can make it happen.
Reach.
Can the government come and like shut your shit down?
Well, yes.
Like actually, and like it's like fully done, or is like can you still just
Or is
pay a
there
fine
gray?
and keep going?
So what kind of shit are you talking about? Like your retail
no,
storefront
An
or
unlicensed
Grow up.
like
Let's
up.
talk about
Oh yeah,
guys
absolutely.
grow up first.
Especially in BC, and actually as far east as Saskatchewan, I know that they're doing checks. So if you have a license for personal production, they are coming and checking how many plants you have, and if your license doesn't reflect how many plants you're allowed to grow, they can shut you down. I have a client who was really worried because he was telling me that there was a helicopter flying over his property. And when he came in, he was coming for a renewal, and I was letting him know, like, don't worry, you're coming for a renewal early enough, so your license isn't going to lapse. But yeah, he thinks that helicopter was flying over to try and to check out how many plants he had and
Wow.
how many plants he was allowed.
This is outdoor or
How
something?
big of a grow up did this guy have?
Grow up is not a word we use.
Grow operation?
Personal production.
Oh, personal production. Okay.
Okay.
And this
What
is
kind
all
of,
outdoor,
how big of a garden did he have?
He was indoor and outdoor.
Okay, no,
greenhouse.
no, no.
Oh, fantastic. I wonder how many plants I can get in my little greenhouse back there.
Give us a call, we'll find it for you.
I can at least do 4.
Yeah.
Is it true that if I do 4, even if you grow 4 plants, technically untitled, then you have to claim your
Yes.
property that it has a grow up?
Yes.
I think that's true. You would know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, right?
Yeah. So that's why it was like recommendations like, oh, if you're planting at your house, do 3 or less.
3 or less, and then you
Yeah.
don't have to claim it as a grow
Yeah.
up.
4 you're allowed to do. You're 100% allowed to do. It just you're gonna be labeled as like a grow
And
up.
then your property from then on will always be marked as a grow up property.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which is terrible for your resale.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
So
But-
please, all the listeners, 3 plants or less.
No, get the juicing thing going.
But then your property's claimed as a grow up
Yeah,
property.
so what?
Who cares?
That's huge on a real estate side. That's
Join the
massive.
revolution, man.
Yeah.
Everybody's house will be like
If
this.
everyone's a grow up, then
Go
nobody's a
green.
grow up.
And then if the
Pretty
real
much.
estate
That
goes
was so
down,
wise.
if the real estate goes down, the farms get cheaper. The farmhouses.
Profound.
Yeah, but that's for your like you wouldn't do it yourself. You don't want your own value to go
Yeah, I
down.
don't want
you
my
fool.
value.
I want all you guys' value to go down.
Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate the support, yeah, bastard.
That guy is my blood. That fucking guy.
I'm gonna buy your farm. I've had some great memories there.
He sounds like fucking the South of America.
Yeah,
The South of America.
I heard like a lot of stores, like weed stores and stuff like that, like they're unlicensed. They keep selling. They'll just come and get fined. They're like, okay, we're still making way
we're
more.
making more than the fine.
So
We'll
they're just like,
pay
okay,
it.
we'll just pay the fine every fucking month and we'll
Yeah.
just keep killing
Yeah.
it.
There's so many arguments going on, and a couple of the ones that I've heard is like, one is that in Canada you have the right to access to marijuana. So these people who are opening these facilities are like, look, this is basically civil disobedience, not illegality, and that's the premise that they're operating on. So yeah, I've heard several times that people are being shut down or fined, and then the next day they just show up again and continue. And I've heard as well, like cops have come in and cleared out their shelves, and the next day they've just restocked their shelves and continued. Yeah.
Just keep very minimal on those shelves.
Yeah.
One little bud
No,
each.
a picture of it.
Just a little-
I want that one. Okay, I got
I'll
a
get a
guy.
number 4.
Yeah, I'll get a
number
guy.
4.
He's gonna come from his house. He's gonna give it to you right now.
Take a number 4 with a large cola.
Liter cola.
Liter cola.
It's so chill here as well. I know that like you can go into a dispensary and you can actually shop around for what you want. You can open the containers, you can smell them, you can do whatever you
Oh,
want.
yeah.
We were in the States a couple of months ago, and a friend of mine's like, let's stop at a dispensary. So we did stop there, and we had no idea what the regulation was like in the States. And she opened one of the jars to smell it, and they freaked out. They snatched it right out of our hands, and then they were looking at the cameras to see if the camera saw it. So I think that it's
Weird.
not
Which
camera.
state? Which
Wow.
state?
yeah. We were in Washington.
Washington.
Wow.
I thought we fucked around, Kevin.
Maybe
No,
it was just,
they were pretty strict there too. I remember.
Was it?
Yeah, they're kind of weird
They
about it.
passed us the doobies and everything.
Did
They're
you guys-
pre-rolled doobies and they're passing it to us. We were touching them and shit.
So
Yeah,
this
I guess that's true.
was it packaged?
Yeah, they were.
Actually,
They
it
were
was in a
packaged.
little-
They were-
It was
it was
a
in a
little.
tube, yeah.
It was almost like a medicine bottle, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it was in a little like tube thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
tube thing. Yeah.
They
Yeah,
would have
the-
killed you if you opened it.
We're gonna try that next
I
time.
know, right?
Try it
See
next
what
time.
happens.
Especially because of the color of your skin. Yeah.
BC bud is known worldwide, and the interesting part is BC has the least amount of legal storefronts.
I heard one's
Yeah.
like in like the interior somewhere.
The first one was in
Kelowna.
Kamloops.
Yeah,
Kamloops.
Kamloops or
Kamloops.
something.
Kamloops.
So that was the first one.
Another one is apparently opening Kelowna.
Which Joseph Richards Group is opening. I think it's Joseph Richards Group. It's one of the big little bar clubs.
Yeah.
And I
Where?
saw photos of it. Fuck, it looks
Where?
amazing. It's like an Apple store for weed.
No, that one is in Alberta.
No, I think it's in BC.
The one that looked like an Apple store.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are Alberta, and they're like opening like 50 or something of them.
Goddamn Alberta.
So
Are you sure? I think it was a BC one.
that one picture that I got sent
Yeah.
that looks like an Apple store was that a company, a cannabis company, went and bought a bunch of liquor stores that were already around Alberta, and they bought them for cheap. And they're like, "Oh, what the fuck are you gonna do with all this?" They're like, "Oh, we're turning them into weed stores," and they fucking turn them to like crazy fucking like lit up stores.
One was like Spence Diamonds for weed, man. It was like you could pick up,
Seriously, man.
you could pick up,
Seriously,
touch, smell, do the whole 9 yards. They had little prices, the strains.
I don't think
Scratch and
that we
sniffs.
have.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think we have that here yet.
No.
I swear it was Joseph Richards Group.
Because Kelowna, I heard was getting the next one, and then I think somebody just got a license in Vancouver.
But it's still pretty
Yeah.
stupid how we don't have that many legal
Well,
dispensaries.
you know
here.
what? You
Why
could
would-
order it online. Who the fuck cares? If you're complaining, first
Yeah.
off, you don't even smoke weed. It's so easy. You could be high on your fucking bed or whatever, and you could be like, "Oh, I'm gonna get this weed and it's gonna come tomorrow."
But that's tomorrow.
Is that still like? Is that fully legal? Ordering online?
That's BC. That's
Yeah.
BC cannabis. That's like a liquor
Yeah.
store.
And is
Oh,
it
That's
Am-
from
Yeah,
from
it's-
our government.
is it Amazon Prime? Like, I think we talked about. Does it come the next day?
It came 2 days for me.
Yeah.
See, that's a long
They say
time.
you pay for 4-day shipping.
Yeah.
Is what you.
But it came in 2 days.
But it can come earlier.
Yeah. But because I'm guessing it's close to us
Yeah.
here, right? They're probably saying for like people that are up north and all weird ass places and shit. But like, okay, a real weed smoker would have a little bit left. And worst case, you call your old dealer and you get a dime to get you those 2-3 days.
That's the worst.
What? You know the bond you make with that dealership? dealer, you know?
People trust their dealers too much.
What? Yeah, you have to. They're giving you drugs.
Yeah.
if you don't trust it, you're fucked.
Fair enough.
You still classify marijuana as drugs?
Huh?
That's sad.
Isn't it?
Oh, she got you, bitch.
Why is she saying this?
Why
to
wouldn't it
me?
be a drug?
I wouldn't call it a drug. It's a plant.
Okay, it is a plant.
Would you call mushrooms a drug?
Nah, actually, I would.
Oh,
You
shit!
know
That's
what?
probably too much.
You know what? It's because I
Shame.
don't know anything about
Shame.
anything beyond marijuana. So I feel like I feel a need to protect the identity of marijuana. But
You know
the
nothing,
No,
Neetu
wait.
Snow.
You don't even smoke marijuana. I do.
You literally just said it was a plant. Now you're basically saying
You're a
that
walking
mushrooms-
contradiction.
Can we
mushrooms are a
abort?
plant.
Can we start over?
No.
No, I stand by what I said.
No,
Okay.
Ooh.
you know nothing, Neetu Snow. You know nothing.
Lines have been drawn in the sand.
No, weed is a drug. Gets you fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it
So-
like anything that kind of messes
It's
with
a
you?
medicine, okay? Not a
Yeah.
drug.
Well done. Well
Well,
done.
it's
Even
a
all
way-
those are
but
considered
it's-
drug, even if they have like healing properties and stuff like that, they're still drugs. Isn't there anything like?
Is spinach a drug?
Well, the reality,
spinach has
the
healing
reality is
properties.
it's the government that's
Drugs.
classified it as a drug.
Spinach doesn't get you all fucked up and make you eat a bunch of other shit.
Have you not seen Popeye?
I know.
I guess jacked up off spinach.
Well, jacked up
Buddy,
on
like
spinach.
he's eating
Infused
some
with speed.
He's eating something else in that can.
100%.
100%.
Speed in that spinach.
Mean green.
All right.
All right.
Why are you staring at us?
I'm not staring at you. You staring at me.
No, he's staring over there.
This is
so
what
I'm
happens when
staring.
Preeti smokes weed.
I haven't smoked weed in 2 months, you bastard.
I am not high enough.
Well, Neetu, where can people contact you?
You can look up our website, 420 Consulting, or you can Google us. You'll find us. We are in Victoria, BC. You can also come on our Instagram page or our Facebook page, all under 420 Consulting.
I love the name.
Yeah.
Straight to the point.
Yeah, we're pretty clever.
Yo, what
Did you go to .com or .ca?
Good question.
.org.
.gov.
.gov. That'd be awesome.
We're an organization.
Yo, what's the deal with 420? Why 420?
I'm sure you can answer that.
420 blaze it. That's why.
420 blazing.
No, I know the date,
What?
but why that date?
What do you
Why
mean?
not?
No.
What?
420 comes.
Who are you?
I don't know the significance of 420.
Yeah, I don't
What
know.
is it?
420, like, 420, April 20th.
No,
everyone-
no,
that's
no.
what we're asking.
The
Why?
number came
why
from
is it
origin.
So
I'm
there's,
pretty
there's a couple of theories of where 420 came from. When I was in high school and I was a kid, everyone used to say, oh, yeah, well, this is obviously... Smoking marijuana was illegal back then, and people used to say, kids used to say, oh yeah, on April 20th, it's legal to smoke weed. Obviously, that wasn't true, but that's what people stuck by. So it just became a big deal, and 420
Really? That
became
in
sacred.
Victoria?
It just
So
all over.
here it was different.
What was it?
Here it was something to do with Hitler's birthday or something.
Hitler's birthday?
We're like, you laugh about it. Okay, you're gonna tell us the truth now?
No, it's not. It's just one of the theories. It was like in 1970s. That was the time, 420, in which they regularly met to fucking basically smoke weed.
Oh.
So that
Okay,
was.
but where did it start though? Because that's been going on.
It says California in 1971.
Oh, they did something protest or
They
something.
probably got off at 4:30. They're like, yo, we're going to meet at 4:20, get high at work.
We used to
Then
do
we're
it at
gonna
UVic
go
as
home.
well. I don't know why I say we, because I never actually joined the circle, but yeah, every Wednesday at
You're
420.
just looking from the side.
Yeah, I just waved to them.
Hey guys.
Proud of you guys.
I'm proud of you guys. And
One-
you're too short for the smoke to actually reach you.
I'm
Right?
like, one day I will make you compliant.
You insubordinate bastards.
One day you will come to me, you bastards, begging me. So yeah, email address.
You can connect
Check
with
the
me
website.
directly. Yep, but it's 420consulting.ca. I just looked it up.
.ca,
.ca guys, Canada.
not .com, which makes sense. You're Canadian anyways,
Yep, that's right.
and you're only
you're
providing
only
your
dealing
services
with-
in Canada.
Yeah, exactly.
All right,
Makes
cool.
sense.
Cross Canada, worldwide.
Mr.
Canada.
One day, one day.
Canada,
Yeah.
Canada's gonna
They're
take over the
expanding.
world.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm laying out the strategy for them.
Oh yeah. Canada's gonna take over the world. It's all going to be Canada.
100%.
Absolutely.
Everyone's gonna follow our lead. But yeah, we're gonna end with thought of the day.
Yeah.
We like to always end with something positive for our listeners. Do you have a thought of the day for us?
Smoke more weed.
If you're gonna grow weed, grow it illegally.
Juice, baby, juice. Juice. I got the juice.
3 plants or less.
No, you can get a fucking shit ton, man. Juice.
The secret is juice. Doctor Saab, मैं juice खाना.
Use.
I want to juice the plant, and because of this, I need 150 plants.
That's how you do it.
Thank you. Come again. Thank you all for joining us. Much love. Appreciate it. Hit us up Instagram at ltbcast@gmail.com. ltbcast on Instagram. I totally, that was all over the fucking place, but
What? I don't even know what the hell you said. at the beginning.
Instagram, Twitter, email,
Just do
fucking
it.
contact,
LTB. LTB.
LTB.
and 420 Consulting.
Woo! Thank you all for joining us. Peace.